Hey guys, today I am going to explain a fantasy anime named I'm Standing on a Million Lives. Surrounded by a large horde of goblins, Yusuke faces off against them all head-on. His inner dialogue notes how he prefers to fight alone and how he despises the people living in Tokyo. In Tokyo, we see Yusuke walk to school and his interactions there as well. Late that night, Yusuke plays an RPG game. Although he enjoys playing it, a board with writing and a picture of him in his youth on it dampens his delighted mood. Yusuke then searches for something on his smartphone. The following day in school, Yusuke is in charge of cleaning the chalkboard. With him in the classroom is the most popular and athletic girl in the school, IU. It's revealed that the previous night Yusuke looked up IU's information on his smartphone. As Yusuke cleans the board, he sees IU talking with another girl in his classroom. Once he's finished cleaning the chalkboard, Yusuke is reproved by his teacher for not turning in his future plans form. While the teacher continues his reproval of Yusuke, he notices that IU and Kuju are still talking with each other. Wanting to go home and continue playing his game, Yusuke finishes up his conversation with his teacher. Finally done with cleaning the chalkboard, Yusuke was going to tell IU and Kuju about locking up for the day. However, he comes to find out that the two are already gone. A butterfly net then drops on the ground in the back of the room as a little girl running and giggling could be heard in the back of the hallway. It's then that 3 stick figures and drawings of fully bloomed flower heads are drawn on the chalkboard. Just as Yusuke tries to process this new incident, he's transported into another world. From there, he's first met by his classmates IU and Kuju. Abruptly then, an individual known as the Game Master appears and gives the group a quest. The quest entails fulfilling a quest for the village chief within a 14-day period, and they show a list of the quest objectives. The explanation now finished, they're assigned their individual combative roles by the Game Master. IU is a wind wizard, Kuju is a sword knight, finally. For Yusuke, a roulette wheel is spun by the Game Master and it lands on Farmer. This revelation disheartens both IU and Kuju. Later, IU explains to Yusuke how she was first transported there, and after she completed her quest the Game Master instructed her to do another quest. For the next quest, IU recruited Kuju in the real world under the Game Master's request. The sequential request by the Game Master was to be alone with Yusuke. However, that was hard for them as Yusuke was being lectured by his teacher. A flashback shows IU teaching Yusuke how to equip any weapons in his inventory, which are simply a hoe and sickle. Venturing through a forest, Yusuke finds a log point and is given an explanation. Touching the log point, Yusuke sees a heart-to-heart moment between IU and Kuju, concerning how incapable Kuju is as a fighter. This gets Kuju very flustered by its revelation. Soon, the group is ambushed by a couple of goblins. With his scythe in hand, Yusuke charges at them, only to have his weapon broken by the goblins' club. Up next is IU and her wind magic, which proves to be just as ineffective against them. Therefore, Kuju and her swordplay is next, however, she's far too timid to do anything effective against them as well. Yusuke then tries to use Kuju's sword himself, but is unable to due to it not being assigned to him. Using his hoe, Yusuke charges at the goblin. But his other weapon is also broken and he dies as the goblin club is smashed in his face. Now a naked and transparent ghost, Yusuke looks at his fallen body. After 30 seconds pass by, Yusuke returns to his body and IU explains that to him. In cooperation with IU's wind magic, Yusuke impales a goblin with his broken hoe, but dies again in the process. Thanks to Yusuke slaying the goblin, the group completes their first objective of slaying a goblin. Curious as to know, Yusuke inquires what would happen if they all die. IU answers that they'd all die for real, in real life then. That night, the group make camp in a rocky area and plan on visiting the village near their current location. Learning that his weapons will take 5 days to regenerate, Yusuke asks what rewards will be given once they complete their quests. This is because the Game Master told Yusuke to ask the girls. In turn, they reveal that they're only allowed to ask the Game Master a single question and detail what they asked him and the response given to them. Yusuke then decides to go out on watch duty first, and during it, he slays a horde of goblins. Hearing his name being screamed by Kuju, he returns to the camp to see Kuju missing her legs from the waist down and her left arm. The monstrous culprit is a large horned beast that had IU in his grip. Warning Yusuke to run as the monster is far too strong for them to beat, it bites off and eats IU's head. Following Ayu's advice, Yusuke flees the scene. The next day, by the riverside where they first entered, Yusuke and Kuju are shown to be alive. However, Kuju's hand hasn't regenerated. Kuju believes that it's because her hand was eaten by the monster. Disconcerted by this fact, Yusuke believes that Ayu won't revive as she was eaten by the creature they encountered. Left with no other alternative, Yusuke makes the executive decision that they need to forget about Ayu and ignore the monster. This is done in favor of meeting with the village chief and completing his request. Upon arriving in the village, the two get a more than warm welcome from its inhabitants as they're called the heroes. When meeting with the village chief, he explains that their task is to slay a troll that has rampaged throughout their land. It's also the same creature that killed Ayu and bit off Kuju's hand. Although perturbed by the revelation, Yusuke goes to train himself so he could rank up. Kuju tries to join him, however, Yusuke argues that it'd be better if she stayed in the village as she'd only get in his way. Leaving Kuju behind, Yusuke thinks how much more exciting the place is than Tokyo.